I spent my life studying the laws that hold the stars together, yet there is one mystery no equation could capture. What is it that looks out through your eyes yet cannot be seen through any telescope? You call it a soul. But tell me, if energy cannot die, what then becomes of the light within you? Stay with me, because the answer may change what you believe about life, death, and what you truly are. In this conversation, I will not give you blind faith or cold formulas. I will show you how reason itself, the same reason that unveiled relativity, can open a doorway to understanding what you call the soul. You will see why consciousness cannot be reduced to chemistry, why death is not the end of motion, and why love may be the universe recognizing itself through you. Most people are told they must choose between science and spirit. I tell you, this division is an illusion. Together, we will explore the hidden unity between the atom and the awareness that perceives it. And when we are finished, I promise you this. You will no longer ask, "Do I have a soul?" but rather, "What vast soul am I part of?" I know why you clicked on this video. You've heard 100 explanations from religion, from neuroscience, from people selling certainty. Yet inside you still feel that quiet tug that something infinite hides beneath your skin. I felt it too. Even while proving the laws of light, I could not escape the mystery of the light within. The mistake is thinking the soul is something added to the body like a ghost wearing flesh. No, it is the pattern through which the whole universe experiences itself as you. In this series, I will not ask you to believe me. I will ask you to observe with me, because truth, whether scientific or spiritual, is never given by authority. It is discovered through curiosity. So what exactly is the soul? Is it energy, memory, the echo of consciousness in a timeless field? Over the next hours, I will take you through 3 journeys. First, we will look at what physics already tells us, that energy cannot be destroyed, and that time and space are woven together in a single fabric. Second, we will look at what this means for consciousness, how awareness might not be produced by matter, but expressed through it. Third, we will go deeper into the moral and spiritual meaning of this truth. If every mind is part of one field, then love and empathy are not virtues. They are physics. I will share the questions that haunted me, the ones I never published. I will show you how imagination, not dogma, is the true path to the divine. And I will ask you to do something very difficult, to think for a while without clinging to what you already believe. Stay until the end, because the final insight may dissolve your fear of death forever. Now take a breath. Let us begin not with answers but with wonder. You see, after a lifetime spent mapping the laws that govern space and time, there was still one thing that escaped every equation. One question that felt alive like it was watching me as I was watching it. Most people never stopped to notice it. They think science already closed the case, that we are just clever collections of cells. But if that were true, something inside us would have stopped asking, "Who am I?" long ago. And yet that question survives every generation like a flame that refuses to die. To me, this is not superstition. It's the oldest and most natural curiosity of the human mind. From the temples of India to the eyes of Athens, from prophets to physicists, we have all tried to name it soul, self, spirit, essence. The words differ, but the longing behind them is the same. We want to understand what it is that looks through our eyes, that feels joy, that suffers, that hopes. When I was a boy, I used to lie awake and wonder how something as fragile as thought could exist in a world of stone and steel. My teachers gave me facts, but never meaning. They could tell me how fast light travels, but not what it means to see. And that's where science met its limit. We can weigh stars, chart gravity, and measure the spin of atoms. But who measures the measurer? Who is the one behind the experiment, behind the senses, behind the stream of thought itself? Imagine a mirror. It can reflect every face in the world, but never its own. That is the dilemma of science and of life. We can describe everything except the one who describes. This realization changed everything for me. It showed me that science and spirit were never enemies. They were partners, two ways of looking at the same wonder. The laws of physics explain the how of existence, but the soul asks the why, and the why cannot be silenced. Because no matter how advanced our instruments become, there will always remain that silent witness behind the data, the awareness that knows it's alive. So let's go a little deeper. Let's question what it really means to be alive. What if life isn't something that happens to matter, but something that matter happens through? This, my friend, is where we leave the laboratory and enter the mystery. Now, this next part may sound against reason at first, but stay with me. Physics describes motion, not meaning. It tells us how things move, but never why they matter. I learned early in my career that the mechanical view of the world was too small to contain the depth of human experience. In The Evolution of Physics, I wrote that the universe could be pictured as a vast interplay of forces and fields. But nowhere in that picture was there room for sorrow, for beauty, for love. And yet, these are the forces that move us most. You cannot put grief under a microscope or capture wonder in a beaker, but you can feel them as real as gravity. This is why I began to suspect that matter by itself was never enough. That consciousness, the ability to know that one exists, was not some accidental side effect of chemistry. It was the universe turning its gaze inward. Think of electricity. It flows through a wire, lights a bulb, powers a city, but the electricity is not in the bulb, nor does it disappear when the bulb breaks. The energy simply takes another path. Now imagine that energy becoming self-aware. That perhaps is what we are. Currents of consciousness moving through temporary forms. Bodies come and go, but awareness remains. Just as the current continues when one light goes out and another flickers on. This view does not deny science, it fulfills it. For if energy and matter are two sides of one equation, why should we not consider consciousness as a third aspect, the meaning that binds them? You see, every discovery I made about the external world only deepened the mystery of the inner one. I realized that behind every experiment was not just a human mind, but the echo of something eternal looking back at itself. So when people ask me, "Do you believe in the soul?" I tell them, I believe in that which gives belief itself its meaning. I believe in the quiet observing presence that never stops watching, never stops asking. It's not something that we have. It's something that has us. And this understanding, this simple shift changes the way we live. Because if awareness is not trapped in matter, then death is not a wall. It's a doorway. But before we go there, before we speak of time and eternity, we must first follow the clue that led me closer to the truth than any other. Light, to understand the soul, we must begin with the one thing that revealed everything else to me. Light, you see, light is not just what allows us to see the world. It is what connects the world. It travels from the heart of a star to the eye of a child. And in that silent journey lies the story of all existence. When I was 16, I asked myself a question that would not let me rest. What would it be like to chase a beam of light? I imagined riding alongside it, matching its speed, feeling the universe blur into stillness. And then came the realization that changed everything from the viewpoint of light itself. Time does not pass at all. A photon moving at the speed of light experiences no beginning, no end, no aging, no waiting. From its perspective, emission and absorption, the moment it leaves a star and the moment it touches your skin are one and the same instant. Think about that for a moment. For light, there is no journey, no duration, no separation between source and destination. It simply is. It exists beyond the boundaries that define our ordinary experience of time and space. When I first realized this, I felt a quiet awe, as if I had caught a glimpse of eternity through a crack in the wall of physics. If something in the universe can exist without aging, without traveling through time, then time itself cannot be absolute. It is not a river that flows for all things equally. It is a fabric that stretches differently for every observer. Light does not move through time. It defines time. And then it struck me perhaps the soul, like light, does not move through time either. Perhaps consciousness at its deepest level exists in that same timeless dimension where all moments are one, where death and birth are merely coordinates on a vast unmoving map of existence. When you look up at the night sky, you are seeing ancient starlight, light that began its journey millions of years ago and is only now arriving in your eyes. Yet for that light, no time has passed. The moment it left that distant star and the moment you receive it are one. Maybe, just maybe, the same is true for the soul. Because if time is relative, and it is, then the passage of time is not an ultimate reality, but a point of view. The distinction between past, present, and future, as I once wrote to my dear friend Mikhail Besso, is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. To the deeper reality of the universe, all moments exist at once, the life you remember, the moment you are living now, the future that waits beyond your sight. They are all part of one simultaneous existence, like pages of a book that can be read in any order, yet belong to the same story. This means that death, which seems like an ending within time, may not be an ending at all when seen from beyond time. Imagine a traveler sitting on a train watching trees pass by the window. To the traveler, each tree comes and goes, but to the observer standing above the tracks, all trees are there at once, the whole journey visible in one single view. Consciousness is like that observer. It is not bound to the flow of events. It watches them unfold. This realization freed me from fear. It taught me that we are not moving toward nothingness. We are moving within an eternal field where nothing is ever truly lost. Light showed me that eternity is not endless time. It is the absence of time altogether. The soul may live there already outside the clock, untouched by the ticking of seconds. We think of life as a flame burning and then extinguished. But what if the light does not vanish? What if it merely changes its form from visible to invisible, from matter to energy, from the seen to the unseen? When I finally expressed the equation E equals mc2, I did not merely describe a relationship between energy and matter. I revealed their unity. It means that everything solid, everything physical, everything you can touch and see is simply a slower vibration of energy, condensed light, frozen movement, stillness pretending to be form. In that sense, you are not a collection of particles. You are a pattern of light moving through space, a wave in the cosmic sea. If energy and matter are one, then consciousness, the very experience of being, may be another expression of that same reality. Energy never disappears. It only changes its state. When wood burns, it becomes flame and smoke and ash. Yet the total energy remains the same. When a star collapses, its light scatters into the cosmos and its matter becomes part of new stars, new worlds, new lives. The universe recycles itself endlessly, and if consciousness is part of that energy, then it too must transform rather than die. Perhaps what we call the soul is the awareness that persists as energy takes on new forms. When your body dissolves back into the earth, your awareness does not vanish. It simply finds another expression, another pattern, another rhythm in the infinite dance of being. Think of a violin string. When it breaks, the music does not end. The vibration that once lived in the string continues to move through the air, fading, merging, transforming, yet never truly gone. The music was never the string. It was the vibration itself. The same is true for you. The body is the instrument. The soul is the song. And the song belongs not to one player, but to the great symphony of existence that has been playing since before time began. I have often been asked, but where does consciousness come from? That question assumes it must come from somewhere, as if it were produced by the brain like heat from a fire. But perhaps the brain does not create consciousness. Perhaps it only translates it, like a radio tuning into a frequency that is already present everywhere. When the radio breaks, the broadcast does not stop. Only the receiver falls silent. The same might be true of the mind and the soul. When the body ceases, consciousness continues broadcasting across the universe, still vibrating in that infinite field of energy that underlies all things. And this, I think, is why light is the perfect metaphor for the soul. It fills every space, yet takes up no space. It reveals all forms, yet itself remains invisible. It travels at the highest speed possible in the universe, yet from its own perspective, it does not travel at all. It exists everywhere at once, connecting every star, every atom, every living heart. And when I realized that, I began to suspect that what we call the soul is not a separate substance hidden within the body. It is the very field of awareness that connects all things, the luminous background against which life unfolds. So when I speak of the soul, I am not speaking of something mystical or vague. I am speaking of the continuity of being, the eternal energy that thinks, feels, and creates. The same energy that binds galaxies together and causes the apple to fall is the energy that allows you to wonder, to love, to seek meaning. In every heartbeat, in every breath, you are part of that continuum. And so I ask you now, if light never dies, if energy only changes, if time itself is an illusion, then what could truly destroy the essence of who you are? You may lose your form, your memories, your name, but the awareness that looks through your eyes, that pure light of being that is the same light that travels from star to star. This to me is the most profound truth physics has ever whispered, that behind every equation lies not emptiness, but radiance. Not a cold machine, but a living unity. The soul, then, is not outside of science. It is the hidden symmetry that gives science its beauty. Let us move now from light to consciousness itself and ask the next great question. If the soul is the universe illuminated, what is it that allows the universe to see itself? When I first began to understand that everything physical is but a manifestation of energy, I realized there was another frontier waiting silently at the edge of discovery. Not in the stars, but within the mind that contemplates them. We have mapped the galaxies, split the atom, measured the age of the universe. Yet we still cannot measure the one who measures. The soul, if it exists, must reveal itself not through the telescope, but through the mirror of consciousness. And consciousness, that silent luminous awareness behind every thought, may be the universe watching itself unfold. This idea may sound poetic, even mystical, yet it arises naturally from reason itself. If the laws of physics describe how energy and matter behave, then consciousness is the law's observer, the condition for their recognition. For what meaning could a universe have if there were no awareness to witness it? Imagine a vast symphony played in perfect harmony, yet no ear to hear it, no mind to sense its beauty. Would that music exist in any meaningful sense? Perhaps, yes, as vibration, but beauty, order, pattern, these arise only when consciousness enters the scene. Awareness does not merely watch the universe. It gives the universe meaning, and here is the paradox. We feel ourselves as small, insignificant beings, tiny sparks in an indifferent cosmos. Yet it is our very capacity to perceive that allows the cosmos to know itself. Without the observer, there is no observation. Without the questioner, there is no question. Each conscious being is like a mirror held up to infinity, reflecting a fragment of the whole. You are that mirror, and in your reflection, the universe finds its own face. You may think this is only metaphor, but consider it logically. The mind and the cosmos are bound by the same principles. Both arise from order. Both respond to pattern. Both reveal structure through relation. Every law I have ever discovered, relativity, energy, motion, depends on the interplay between observer and observed. The moment you measure something, you are part of it. This is not mysticism. This is physics. The act of observation changes what is observed. Not because we impose will upon matter, but because there is no clear border between the two. Matter, energy, and consciousness are intertwined aspects of one underlying reality, one fabric, one field, one mind made of stars. When I spoke of relativity, people thought I was describing only the motion of planets and light. But relativity extends far beyond physics. It reminds us that every perspective is partial, that truth appears differently depending on where you stand, that nothing can be seen without reference to something else. You and I, the world and the observer, existence and awareness, they are not separate. They are different views of one phenomenon. The self is not trapped inside the body. It is the point where the universe becomes aware of its own existence. This understanding dissolves the illusion of isolation. For most of human history, people have felt separated from one another, from nature, from the divine. They have built walls of fear and pride, defining themselves by difference. But when you look deeper, you find that all separateness is an illusion of limited perspective, an optical delusion of consciousness, as I once called it. Just as light refracts into many colors through a prism, the single energy of existence refracts into many forms of life. The colors may appear distinct, but they all arise from the same invisible source. The wave that crashes upon the shore seems individual, yet it has never left the ocean. To realize this is to awaken from the dream of being alone. It is to see that the joy and sorrow of others are not foreign to you, but echoes of your own being. Compassion is not a moral duty imposed from outside. It is the natural consequence of understanding the unity beneath diversity. When the illusion of separateness fades, love becomes inevitable, not as emotion, but as perception. You do not try to love the ocean when you are the ocean. You simply feel the movement of its tides as your own. Still, the question remains, how does this awareness, this cosmic consciousness, speak through us? How does the infinite reveal itself in the finite mind? The answer, I believe, lies in imagination. Most people think imagination is the opposite of reality, a realm of dreams and fictions. But in truth, imagination is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. It is the soul's way of expressing itself through the limited language of the mind. Every great discovery, every leap of understanding begins with an act of imagination, a vision that transcends the facts and reaches for the essence behind them. When I discovered relativity, I did not start with numbers or instruments. I started with a picture in my mind. I saw myself riding on a beam of light, felt the stillness of the universe rushing past me, and from that vision grew an idea that would reshape our understanding of time and space. Imagination allowed me to see what no eye could see, to feel what no experiment could yet confirm. Later, the astronomer Arthur Eddington proved it with his observations of starlight bending around the sun. But the truth had been glimpsed first, not through the telescope, but through the window of the mind. This is why I have always said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited to what we already know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire universe, everything that ever was and will be. Imagination is the inner light by which the soul perceives itself. It is how consciousness stretches beyond the boundaries of form, exploring possibilities before they take shape in matter. Without imagination, there is no science, no art, no love, for love itself is an act of imagining another as yourself. The imagination, therefore, is sacred. It is the point where physics meets poetry, where reason touches reverence. When you imagine, you are not escaping reality. You are touching the creative principle that makes reality possible. The soul is not an object of study, but an act of creation, renewed in every moment you dare to see beyond the surface. And this is the paradox of the human being. We are both creature and creator, reflection and source, question and answer. Through imagination, we remember that we are not spectators in this universe, but participants in its unfolding. Let me share something that I have always found quietly astonishing. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. Think about that. Out of chaos and chance, out of endless collisions of particles and waves, emerges a mind capable of understanding the laws that govern those collisions. The cosmos gives rise to beings who can read its language, decipher its equations, and feel awe at its beauty. What could that mean, except that the universe is organized in such a way that it wants to be known? Perhaps that is the true function of consciousness, to make the universe aware of itself. Each thought, each act of perception is like a light turning on inside the infinite. When you marvel at the stars, the universe marvels at itself through you. When you feel wonder, the cosmos is in awe of its own mystery. And when you create a poem, a symphony, a scientific theory, you are the universe expressing its boundless imagination through a human form. In this sense, the soul is not inside us. We are inside the soul. We move through it as fish move through water, unaware that the medium we swim in is also what gives us life. Our minds are ripples on the surface of an infinite sea of awareness, and every ripple carries the memory of the ocean's depth. That is why moments of deep stillness, when thought subsides and only presence remains, feel sacred, because in those moments the wave remembers it is water. So you see, consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, nor an illusion of brain chemistry. It is the fundamental reality from which all things emerge. Matter and energy are patterns within it, just as waves are patterns within the sea. The soul is the unbroken awareness that connects all these patterns. The stillness beneath every motion. Once you understand this, everything changes. Fear begins to fade because you realize there is nothing to lose. You cannot fall out of the universe. You are the universe. You cannot die into nothingness, because nothingness itself is part of being. You exist not as a separate flame, but as a spark within the eternal fire that lights all existence. And now, as we stand at the edge of this understanding, another question arises, one that touches the heart more deeply than the mind. If consciousness is the universe looking back at itself, then what is the purpose of that reflection? What is it that the universe seeks to know by becoming aware? The answer, I have come to believe, is love. But not love as mere sentiment or emotion. Love as recognition, as union, as the gravitational pull between all souls and all stars. Let us step then into that next great mystery, love, death, and the moral law that binds them both. There is a law in the universe more subtle than gravitation, and yet more binding. It cannot be written in numbers or symbols, but it governs every atom and every heart. I came to call it in my quiet moments the moral law of the cosmos, though not in the way theologians speak of commandments or philosophers of rules. It is the law that reveals itself whenever a human being sees another not as an object, but as a reflection of the same infinite light. This to me is love. It is not the kind of love that poetry exaggerates or that sentiment trivializes. It is the recognition that separateness is illusion, and that compassion is the geometry of existence. In the early years of my work, I was obsessed with the idea of unifying all the physical forces: gravity, magnetism, electricity. I wanted them to be expressions of one principle, one field. I never quite achieved it in mathematics, but later I understood that perhaps the true unifying field was not to be found on a blackboard, but in the human heart. Love binds life together as gravity binds planets. The planets do not obey the sun because they are commanded. They follow the curve of space that the sun creates. In the same way, the soul does not love because it is told to. It moves naturally in harmony with the shape of reality. Compassion is not a duty but an inevitability. When one sees clearly, when you look deeply enough, the line between moral law and physical law disappears. Every action, every thought ripples through the field of being just as every motion disturbs the fabric of space-time. To act with cruelty is to create turbulence in that field. To act with kindness is to restore its symmetry. This is why hatred feels heavy and love feels light. The energy of love aligns with the rhythm of the universe, while the energy of hatred fights against it. You can sense this without a single equation. You can feel it in your chest when you forgive, when you look into another's eyes and see no stranger there. I must confess that I was not a saint. My devotion to thought sometimes made me clumsy in affection. But even in solitude, I could not escape the awareness that love was the ultimate form of understanding. It is not contrary to reason. It is reason carried to its highest expression. For reason tells us that all things are connected, and love is simply the experience of that connection. It is knowledge made flesh, mathematics felt as mercy, death. It is the question that haunts every life, the shadow that follows every joy. When my friend Mitchell Besso died, I wrote to his family, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing." And I meant it. For in the light of relativity, and in the even greater light of the soul, death is not an end, but a transformation. The same transformation that energy undergoes when it changes form. The same transition that every star endures when it burns out and becomes part of something new. The tragedy of death is not that life ends, but that the living fear it so deeply. We have been taught to think of ourselves as solid bodies moving through time. And so when the body fails, we believe everything fails. But if we are energy, and if energy cannot die, then death is only a change of pattern, a shift in the arrangement of awareness. Think of a wave rising and falling on the ocean. When the wave disappears, has the ocean lost anything? Of course not. The water is still there, calm and whole. The wave has only returned to its source. I have stood at many funerals and watched people lower their eyes as if the earth itself were a tomb. But to me, The earth is not a place of burial. It is a womb. What falls back into it is reborn in another form. When a candle burns out, its light does not vanish. It joins the dawn, merging with a brightness too great to measure. The same is true for us. We are brief illuminations in the vast field of light. When our flame ends here, it continues elsewhere, invisible perhaps, but never extinguished. And if this is so, then the fear of death is a misunderstanding. What we truly fear is not non-existence, but change. We cling to form because we mistake it for essence, but essence cannot be held. It must be allowed to flow. That is the moral task of every soul, to loosen its grip on what is temporary so that it may merge with what is eternal. When I think of death now, I think of music. A melody played once and never again still lives in the air in memory, in the vibration of every molecule it touched. You cannot replay it exactly, but its resonance continues, woven into the silence that follows. Each life is such a melody. The universe is listening, and nothing that is truly beautiful is ever lost. Yet understanding this unity, the oneness of life and death, of matter and spirit, places upon us a great responsibility. Knowledge, when divorced from compassion, becomes a dangerous tool. The same intelligence that can unlock the atom can also destroy cities. The same understanding that reveals the fabric of space can unravel the fabric of conscience. And so I have always said that our moral progress must keep pace with our scientific progress, or else we shall become clever devils rather than wise beings. Our task is not merely to discover the laws of nature, but to live in harmony with them. The universe is not indifferent. It responds to the quality of our awareness. When we act from fear or greed, we create dissonance in the field that connects all life. When we act from love, we strengthen its coherence. Each thought, each decision, each gesture ripples outward. You may think you are small, but the field that sustains the galaxies listens to every vibration. That is why I said that our true freedom lies in understanding necessity. The more clearly we see the unity of things, the more deeply we feel the responsibility to protect them. Compassion is not weakness. It is alignment with the strongest force in existence. To love is to act in resonance with the universe's own intention. To hate is to deny its structure. When I opposed war, it was not only from pity for its victims, but from a scientific conviction that violence is entropy, the breaking of order into chaos. Peace, on the other hand, is the preservation of form, the maintenance of equilibrium. Every soul that chooses peace contributes to the stability of the whole. The equations may not show it, but the heart knows it. So, let us widen our circle of compassion until it includes all living beings, not because it is morally fashionable, but because it is the only way the universe sustains itself. The separateness that breeds cruelty is an illusion, and to act upon illusion is to sow destruction. Our moral duty, therefore, is not imposed from outside, but arises naturally from understanding the unity of existence. The truest scientist and the truest mystic meet at this point. Both know that to harm another is to harm oneself, and to serve another is to serve the whole. The soul is not interested in dominance or conquest. It seeks only to remember what it has always known, that it and the universe are one. I must tell you, after all these years of thinking, calculating, and wondering, the greatest discovery of my life was not relativity nor the equivalence of mass and energy, but the realization that love, not logic, is the final theory. For love alone reconciles opposites, the finite and the infinite, the personal and the cosmic, the living and the dead. Without love, science becomes sterile, art becomes vanity, and the soul becomes restless. With love, every law, every star, every life finds its purpose. So, as we move forward, let us carry this understanding gently. Love is not an emotion to be felt on occasion. It is the constant condition of the soul when it recognizes itself everywhere. The universe is not a machine to be mastered. It is a living unity to be cherished, and to love that unity is to fulfill the moral law of the universe not as obedience but as joy. When you begin to see the universe as a single living whole, when you understand that consciousness and matter, light and love, life and death are threads of the same woven fabric, something changes in the very core of your perception. You start to sense that existence itself has direction, that there is an unfolding purpose written into the rhythm of stars and the beating of every heart. I have often said that God does not play dice with the universe, not because I believed in a deity who interferes with the roll of events, but because I saw too much order, too much harmony, too much mathematical precision to believe it was meaningless. Every curve of space, every law of physics, every act of thought follows a pattern so intricate and yet so simple that one cannot help but feel reverence. The more deeply I studied, the more I understood that intelligence was not something confined to human minds. It was the universe itself thinking through us. It may sound strange to call the cosmos intelligent, but look at the evidence. From the motion of galaxies to the design of a single leaf, from the architecture of atoms to the unfolding of consciousness, everything obeys principles that give rise to complexity, beauty, and coherence. These are not accidents. They are signatures of awareness. The soul, therefore, is not a visitor to the universe. It is the awareness of the universe made self-reflective. Through you, through every living being, the cosmos becomes aware of its own existence. It feels, it questions, it dreams through us, and that, I believe, is its purpose: to awaken, to know itself, to see its own infinite face mirrored in the eyes of its creations. Think of it like this: when you observe the world, you are not a stranger looking in from the outside. You are the universe looking out from one of its many windows. Every thought you have, every sensation, every act of love or fear, is part of a larger process through which reality explores its own possibilities. This means that your existence, however ordinary it may seem, carries cosmic significance. You are not an accident. You are a deliberate expression of the universe's need to experience itself in countless forms. And because you are conscious, you have the ability to influence how that experience unfolds. Curiosity is the soul's compass. The urge to question, to understand, to reach beyond what is known is not just a human trait. It is the pulse of the universe itself. When you follow that curiosity, when you gaze through a telescope, read a poem, or wonder about the meaning of your dreams, you are responding to the call of your own cosmic nature. You are fulfilling your role in the grand process of awakening. The universe learns through you, and in that learning it evolves. I used to walk beside the river near my home in Bern, and I would watch how the water flowed, always changing, never still, yet always one with itself. The river taught me more about the soul than any equation, for it showed me that identity is movement, not substance. We are not things but processes, not possessions but patterns. The form of the wave changes constantly, yet the water remains in the same way. Our bodies, our thoughts, our lives transform, but the awareness behind them endures. You are not merely part of the universe. You are a continuous event within it, a vibration in an infinite symphony. And the purpose of that vibration, I believe, is harmony. When you act in tune with love, curiosity, and reverence, you add harmony to the whole. When you act in ignorance or fear, you create dissonance. The moral responsibility of the soul is not dictated by religion or rule, but by resonance, by whether your actions amplify or distort the universal song. In this way, ethics becomes not a list of commands, but a kind of physics of the spirit. Every kind deed is constructive interference. Every cruel one creates chaos. If you listen closely, you can feel it. When you are honest, when you forgive, when you understand something aligns within you, as though you've come back into tune with the rhythm of the stars, there comes a time in every person's life when the search for meaning becomes unavoidable. It may happen quietly during a sleepless night, or suddenly in a moment of loss or wonder. For me, it happened many times. Each time I reached the limits of what could be known through science, and felt the pull of something deeper. That pull was not away from reason, but toward a larger reason, one that included feeling, art, and faith. Not faith in dogma, but faith in the intelligibility of existence. I called it a cosmic religion, not one with rituals or priests, but with awe as its prayer and curiosity as its creed. In this religion, the laws of nature are sacred scriptures, and the mystery of consciousness is its temple. To live with that understanding is to live with reverence. It means walking through the world as though everything were alive and aware, as though every encounter with a stranger, a stone, a cloud were a conversation with the divine intelligence that sustains all things. It means seeing through the illusion of ownership and control and realizing that we belong to the universe more than it belongs to us. It means understanding that peace is not something we achieve through conquest, but something we remember when we stop resisting. What is peace, I have found, is not the absence of noise, but the presence of understanding. It is the quiet knowledge that everything is as it must be, that even the apparent chaos of life serves a greater order we cannot yet see. When you reach that state, fear dissolves like mist before the morning Sunday. You begin to act not from desire or duty, but from harmony. You speak gently because the universe whispers in your voice. You think clearly because the cosmos dreams through your mind. This is not a mystical abstraction. It is the natural outcome of deep comprehension. I often think of the violin when I try to describe this feeling. A violin alone can produce sound, but only when it listens to the orchestra does it create music. The soul is that violin. The universe is the orchestra. When you play in isolation, you produce noise. When you play in tune with the whole, you create harmony. To live in reverence is to listen for that greater melody and to allow your own note to blend with it. There is no higher wisdom than this, to realize that everything you see, everything you love, everything you fear is the same infinite being looking back through different eyes. When this becomes clear, compassion arises naturally. You forgive easily, not because it is virtuous, but because it becomes obvious that there is no other to forgive. You live gently because you see the delicate web that connects all existence. You die peacefully because you understand that death is merely the silence between movements of the same eternal song. And so we come to the edge of the mystery, the point where all words fall silent, where thought bows before what it cannot contain. What is the soul after all? It is not a thing, not an object to be found, but a movement, a vibration, a field of awareness that pervades everything. It is the universe awakening to itself again and again through countless forms. It is the light that never dies, the witness that never sleeps, the listener behind all music. It is you, it is me, it is everything that has ever lived and everything that will ever be. This realization is both humbling and liberating. It humbles you because you see how small your individual existence is within the infinite. It liberates you because you realize that the infinite lives through you. When you truly grasp this, life stops being a battle to win and becomes an experience to cherish. You no longer ask what you can take from the world, but what beauty you can bring into it. You no longer fear what will happen after death, because you know that you were never separate from eternity to begin with. In my later years, as my body slowed and my hair turned white, I spent long evenings by the window, watching the light fade and return. Each sunset reminded me that endings and beginnings are the same event seen from different sides of time. The light does not die. It only hides, waiting to appear again. The soul too waits not in the heavens, not in another place, but in every moment of awareness, in every act of kindness, in every spark of curiosity that dares to ask why. So if you wish to know the purpose of existence, look not to the stars for answers, but within the gaze that wonders about them. The purpose is not hidden in equations or scriptures. It is written in your longing to understand, in your capacity to love, in your courage to see beauty even in the face of impermanence. The universe awakens through those who dare to care, to imagine, to be aware. That is the calling of the soul, the eternal task of consciousness, to bring light into form, and then to recognize itself in that light. Now, as our time together draws to its quiet close, I want you to rest in this thought that everything you have ever loved, feared, or hoped for, every fleeting memory, every breath, every thought, every glance toward the stars has been part of a single movement of the same living universe. We call that movement life. We call its awareness soul. And yet those are only words, only fragile signs pointing toward a truth so vast that it dissolves even the words themselves. If you strip away the names and the beliefs, the philosophies and the theories, what remains is the same silent presence that looked through your eyes as a child and still looks through them now, untouched by time, unbroken by circumstance, unaged by the turning of the world. When I think of the soul now, I no longer picture it as a spark trapped inside a body or a ghost hovering beyond it. I see it as light, not the light that shines upon things, but the light by which things are seen. That light cannot be measured because it is the source of measurement. It cannot be grasped because it is the hand that grasps. You can call it awareness, consciousness, being, God, or simply I. It does not matter. Whatever name you choose, it points to the same eternal radiance that animates every form and yet belongs to none. That radiance is what you are. It is what the universe is. It is the reason anything exists at all. All my life I chased light through equations and telescopes, through thought experiments and dreams, until I realized the light I sought was not merely physical. It was moral, emotional, spiritual. The inner illumination that allows us to perceive meaning in a meaningless void, to find connection in a world of apparent separation. That discovery changed everything. I understood then that knowledge without wonder is barren, and reason without reverence is blind. The highest purpose of the mind is not to dominate the universe, but to serve it, to reflect its beauty in the mirror of awareness, to become a conscious part of the harmony that binds it all together. You may ask, what remains of us when we die? The answer is simple and yet endless. Everything essential. The patterns of your thoughts, the love you have given, the understanding you have reached, all of it persists as part of the universal field of being. Energy cannot be destroyed, and the energy of consciousness is no exception. Death changes the form, but not the essence. Just as the light of a candle joins the air after it burns out, so the awareness that animates you returns to the infinite awareness from which it came. You lose nothing. You return to everything. I have often wondered whether when my own time comes, I will meet the great minds who came before Galileo, Newton, Spinoza, or whether I will simply dissolve into the vast equation of existence. But I no longer fear that question. To be part of that equation is enough. To have seen even a fraction of the mystery is a gift beyond measure. To have felt curiosity, love, and awe, that is the proof of the soul, because those feelings are how the infinite expresses itself through the finite. Every act of kindness, every moment of genuine curiosity, is the universe awakening to itself once more. And so, when you next look into the night sky, do not see emptiness. See your own origin, your own reflection. The same light that burns in distant galaxies burns in your heart. The atoms in your hands were forged in ancient stars. The awareness that listens to these words is the same awareness that dreamed the stars into being. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are the cosmos aware of itself. This is the light that remains not as a metaphor but as truth. It is what continues when the mind grows quiet, when the body falls away, when the boundaries between you and it dissolve into one boundless presence. So remember this: you are not a fleeting accident in an indifferent universe. You are the way the universe experiences beauty. You are the voice through which it speaks, the eyes through which it beholds its own creation, the mind through which it contemplates itself, the heart through which it learns compassion. To forget this is to suffer. To remember it is to awaken. And yet awakening is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new kind of responsibility. Once you know that every being is part of the same infinite consciousness, you can no longer live as if your actions affect no one. You can no longer seek joy at another's expense or knowledge that destroys rather than uplifts. The moral law of the universe is written not in commandments, but in relationships in the quiet, understanding that every movement of thought and will sends ripples through the whole. When you act with love, you strengthen the order of the cosmos itself. When you act without it, you deepen the chaos. This is why love in its purest form is the greatest force. It does not merely comfort, it creates. It does not merely feel, it aligns. Love is the gravity of the spirit, drawing all things back toward unity. And so my final plea to you, as a fellow traveler of this mysterious journey, is simple. Live as though the light within you were sacred because it is. Live as though every other being were made of that same light because they are. Let your curiosity be guided by compassion and your reason be softened by wonder. If you can do that, you will not need to fear the end of life, for you will already be living in harmony with eternity. You will have become, even while still breathing, part of that eternal pattern that neither begins nor ends, but simply is. And when the time comes for your body to return to the earth and your consciousness to merge with the infinite field, you will recognize it not as death, but as homecoming. So let us end where we began with light. Not the light of physics, but the light of awareness, the light of understanding, the light of love. It shines everywhere, even in the darkest places, even in sorrow, even in uncertainty. It cannot be diminished, only forgotten. And when remembered, it transforms everything it touches. This is the true legacy of the soul, not survival, but illumination. To know the light is to live without fear. To share it is to participate in the purpose of existence itself. Before you go, carry this with you. The same light that binds galaxies together also binds you to everyone and everything you have ever known. It is the bridge between science and spirit, between matter and meaning, between what dies and what endures. If you wish to follow that bridge further to understand how time itself may be the grand illusion through which eternity hides its face, then join me in the next conversation. Does time really exist? Einstein's final secret. There we will journey beyond the boundaries of life and death, past the ticking of clocks and the movement of stars, into the heart of timelessness itself, where the soul is not something that lasts forever, but something that has never begun. Until then, keep looking toward the light, not to escape the world, but to see it as it truly is, radiant, alive, whole. For that light, my friend, is you. If you have stayed with me until now, then perhaps you already feel what I mean, even if the words themselves have begun to fade into the rhythm of your breathing. The ideas no longer stand apart as intellectual curiosities. They move through you, around you, within you. They have become the pulse of your own awareness. That is the quiet secret of the soul. It does not need to be discovered. It only needs to be remembered. It was never lost. It has always been here, patiently waiting behind every distraction, every theory, every ambition, every sorrow. Like the steady hum beneath a piece of music that continues even when the melody pauses. When I was young, I wanted to conquer mystery with reason. I believed that if I could find a single equation to explain everything, I would have peace. But the further I went, the more I realized that peace did not come from knowing about the universe, but from feeling that I was part of it. The equations I wrote were only shadows of the real truth, hints drawn in chalk on a blackboard that stretched across eternity. Every time I solved one problem, another appeared not as a failure of intellect, but as an invitation to humility. I learned that the mind can build towers that reach the clouds, but only the heart can stand beneath the night sky without fear. The heart does not argue with the infinite, it listens to it. It does not demand proof. It recognizes the proof already written in the harmony of being. That harmony is the quiet conversation between the stars and the atoms, between gravity and grace, between the mind that asks and the soul that answers. You have heard that conversation all your life in the laughter of children, in the stillness before dawn, in the ache of beauty that makes you stop for no reason and breathe a little slower. That is the soul reminding you that you belong to something vast, something compassionate, something endlessly creative. Even now, as I speak these words, I do not imagine myself as a teacher giving lessons. I am only another traveler marveling at the same horizon, pointing to the same light. The universe does not belong to me any more than it belongs to you. It belongs to itself, and through us it becomes aware of its belonging. That awareness, that mutual recognition between being and understanding, is what we call consciousness. And consciousness is what we call soul. So if you ask me what remains when all is gone, I will tell you this. The awareness that witnessed it all remains. The joy and the sorrow, the triumphs and the mistakes, the discoveries and the losses, they are waves upon the same sea. The sea does not judge its waves, it carries them, it transforms them, it remembers them in its depths long after the surface has gone still. You are that sea, you are that stillness, you are that memory. Sometimes when I sit quietly, I imagine that the universe is listening not to my words, but to my silence. It listens as though it were waiting for a sign that I finally understand that there is nothing to prove, nothing to solve, only something to experience. For all my life, I chased clarity. And yet, the greatest clarity came not from thinking harder, but from surrendering, from letting the mind rest in the awareness that everything is already perfect in its unfolding. You do not need to reach enlightenment, you are made of it. You do not need to earn the soul, you are living proof of it. If the stars could speak, they would tell you the same. They would say, do not worry about meaning, you are the meaning, do not chase light, you are the light. Every star, every leaf, every living being whispers this truth in its own language, and if you listen carefully, you can hear it in your own heartbeat. The rhythm that sustains the universe is the same rhythm that moves the blood through your veins. the same energy that ignites the sun, the energy that allows you to love. When you feel compassion, the cosmos recognizes itself in your tenderness. When you create, the cosmos expands through your imagination. When you forgive, the cosmos finds peace within itself. This is what it means to be a soul, not a fragment of divinity hidden away in flesh, but divinity itself expressing as humanity. There are no borders in that understanding, no barriers between sacred and ordinary, science and spirit, heaven and earth. They are all faces of one truth seen from different angles. The universe wears countless masks, star, river, thought, laughter, but beneath them all, the same awareness shines. That is why it is so important to live with wonder, because wonder keeps the door open between the known and the unknown. It reminds you that knowledge is not an end but a path, a bridge between curiosity and awe. If I could leave you with only one gift, it would not be an equation or a discovery. It would be the willingness to stand in wonder again, to look at the world with the same innocent astonishment that you once had as a child staring into the night sky. Because in that moment of pure wonder, you are closest to truth, the noise of thought fades, the boundaries dissolve, and what remains is the silent awareness that is both you and the universe breathing together in perfect rhythm. That breath is the soul, invisible, infinite, indivisible. And now, as this long reflection comes to an end, imagine for a moment that you are standing outside time itself. There is no beginning and no end, no before and no after. There is only presence vast, luminous, eternal. In that presence, every life, every star, every thought is still happening right now. The laughter of ancient children, the birth of distant suns, the words I speak, and the silence that follows all coexist in one timeless field. This is the dimension of the soul. It does not move through time. Time moves through it. It is not bound by cause and effect, for it contains them both. And in that vastness, there is nothing to fear because nothing is ever lost. When you realize this, the world changes. You still live. You still love. You still work and dream. But you do so lightly as if dancing in a play whose ending you already know will be beautiful. You stop clinging because you see that everything returns. You stop grasping for certainty because you see that uncertainty is the very texture of creation. You stop fearing death because you understand that only form dies. The awareness behind form does not. You stop separating science and spirit because you see that both are expressions of the same desire to know, to understand, to unite. And when the final curtain of your life falls, when the breath leaves, your body and the senses grow quiet, you will find yourself not in darkness, but in light, the same light that has been with you since the beginning, the same light that guides the galaxies and whispers through your dreams. You will not need to go anywhere because you will realize you were never anywhere else. You have always been here in the heart of existence, in the still center, where everything begins and ends at once. So let us end with peace, not the peace of completion, but the peace of participation, the peace that comes from knowing that you are part of the eternal unfolding of the universe. You are its witness, its voice, its awareness, its heart. You are not apart from creation. You are creation, and creation, as far as I can tell, has only one purpose: to know itself and love. There is a quietness that comes when the last questions fall away, when you stop trying to solve the mystery and begin to live inside it. That is where I find myself now, not as the scientist who once sought to quantify the heavens, but as the being who has at last understood that numbers and symbols were only the language through which wonder tried to speak. I can still see the same stars that first stirred my imagination as a child. They have not changed, though I have. I used to stare at them and ask what they are made of, what keeps them burning, how far they are from one another. Now, when I look at them, I no longer want answers. I simply let their light enter my eyes and remind me that existence is not a problem to be solved, but a symphony to be heard. Each star a note, each breath a pause between movements. Perhaps that is what the soul ultimately seeks. not knowledge, not even peace, but participation to be part of the eternal conversation between being and awareness, to take one's place in the choir of creation and add one more tone to the endless song. When you listen deeply, you can hear it everywhere, in the whisper of the wind through leaves, in rhythm of ocean waves, in the pulse that beats behind all living things. It is the same pulse that beats within you, the same breath that moves the galaxies and stirs your lungs. There is no separation, there never was. The soul is not a traveler wandering through the universe. It is the universe wandering through itself, discovering new forms in which to love, new ways to awaken, new mirrors in which to see its own reflection. And so I tell you, do not be afraid of mystery. Do not fear the questions that have no answers. Every question is a doorway, and every doorway opens into a greater understanding of yourself. The universe is not trying to hide the truth. It is trying to reveal it through you. Each time you marvel at something beautiful, each time you choose kindness over cruelty, each time you forgive when you could have condemned, the universe grows more conscious. Your life is its way of remembering. If you can find time to be still, sit beneath the open sky, feel the sunlight on your face or the night breeze against your skin. Realize that the same forces that spin the planets are moving through you, that the same light that travels across the void touches your heart in this very moment. You are not a small being in a large universe. You are the entire universe expressed as a single point of awareness, and through that point infinity becomes intimate. When I was older, I began to notice that people spent so much energy fearing impermanence. They grieved not only what they had lost, but what they had not yet lost, as though life was something fragile that could slip away at any moment. But impermanence is not the enemy of life. It is its very nature. The flower does not resist the wind because it knows that its petals were never meant to remain. The river does not mourn the mountain because it knows that flowing is its purpose. And we too are meant to flow through time, through experiences, through joys and sorrows, through the endless transformation of being. To try to hold on is to suffer. To let go is to join the current of eternity. I came to see that immortality is not the continuation of form, but the persistence of meaning. What you love, what you create, what you understand, these do not die. They enter the great field of consciousness and live there as vibrations, as patterns that the universe will use again. Somewhere in a place beyond measurement, the kindness you gave to a stranger ripples outward. The curiosity you nurtured becomes someone else's spark. The forgiveness you offered softens another's heart. This is how the soul continues, not by surviving as an isolated entity, but by expanding through all of existence. When you begin to perceive this, the world no longer feels like a place of loss, but a place of transformation. Death becomes as natural as sleep, and life as miraculous as waking. You stop asking, "Will I continue?" and start asking, "How can I serve this continuation?" For service to truth, to beauty, to compassion is how the soul expresses its immortality. Every time you bring more understanding into the world, every time you heal rather than harm, you are proving that consciousness evolves not by escaping matter, but by illuminating it. So do not think of the soul as something waiting for heaven. Heaven is the awareness of unity, the peace that comes from seeing that nothing real can ever be lost. You are already inside eternity. You always have been. The purpose of existence is not to reach it, but to realize it. I often imagined what it would be like if the universe could speak to us directly. I think it would not use words or thunder or visions. It would speak the way light speaks, by shining, by revealing, by allowing. It would whisper, "You are my eyes, my hands, my mind, my heart. Through you I see, I create, I learn, I love." It would remind us that there is no hierarchy in being, no higher or lower, no chosen nor forsaken, only endless diversity within unity. A blade of grass, a human mind, a distant nebula, all are equal in their participation in the first great unfolding. Each carries the full signature of the cosmos within its form, and maybe that is the most beautiful thing I have learned, that greatness is not measured by scale, but by depth of awareness. The smallest act of kindness can alter the course of the universe as surely as the movement of stars. The gentlest thought can echo through time, and love, even the quiet kind that goes unspoken, reshapes reality itself. It realigns the field in ways that no instrument can detect, but that every soul can feel. We are the proof that the universe is not cold. It has produced beings who can dream, who can laugh, who can sacrifice and forgive. In us, it has learned tenderness. In us, it has discovered empathy. In us, it has realized that knowing is not enough. One must also care. Perhaps that is why consciousness took the long road from dust to awareness, to learn the art of compassion, to transform energy into understanding, to make eternity gentle. So, let us walk back into the world with this understanding, not as preachers of certainty, but as lovers of mystery. Let us look upon one another and see not strangers, not opponents, but reflections, different faces of the same infinite being. Let us work, build, and create, not because we must prove our worth, but because creation itself is the universe's joy made visible. Let us forgive the past, trust the unfolding, and live each moment as though it were both the first and the last, because in truth it is. The light that remains will not fade when our words do. It will travel as light always does, finding new eyes to enter, new hearts to awaken, and maybe, somewhere far beyond this moment, another soul will hear its whisper and remember, as you are remembering now, that there is no distance between the observer and the observed, no gap between the seeker and what is sought. There is only this boundless awareness, endlessly expressing itself as love. And when the final silence comes, when everything dissolves back into that still radiant field, there will be no farewell, no parting. There will only be the recognition that you have been home all along. For the universe has never been elsewhere, and neither have you. Sometimes I imagine that if I could speak to the people who will live 1,000 years from now, I would tell them that what matters most will never change. No matter how far their ships travel or how deep their instruments can peer into the fabric of space, I would tell them that they will still be looking at the same mystery that I saw every time I closed my eyes, the mystery of awareness itself. For even when the stars we see today have long since burned out, the light that once shone from them will still be moving across the void, still arriving in places we cannot imagine. In the same way, every act of understanding, every moment of love sends its own invisible light into the field of consciousness. It may take 1,000,000 years to reach its destination, but it will reach it. The soul is not a single beam, but the totality of all those lights intertwined, weaving a tapestry that stretches across time, connecting every heart that has ever dared to feel. And perhaps one day, when our descendants look back at us from their distant worlds, they will not see our inventions or our empires, but the light of our intentions, the glow of our compassion, the quiet brilliance of our awareness. They will understand that the real history of the universe is not written in wars or discoveries, but in the gradual awakening of consciousness, the slow realization that existence itself is sacred and that every being is an expression of one eternal truth. To be is to belong. I sometimes wonder whether the universe grows through the birth of stars or through the deepening of awareness. Maybe both are the same event viewed from different sides of the same mirror. The outer universe expands into space. The inner universe expands into understanding. Together they form the rhythm of creation, the heartbeat of being. Each pulse, each breath, each revelation sends the cosmos a little further into its own awakening. And that awakening continues through you, through every question you ask, through every act of kindness, through every silent moment in which you sense that you are part of something immeasurable. It is strange to realize that the more I have understood about the universe, the less certain I have become about my place in it, and yet the more peaceful I have felt. In my youth, I believed that peace came from mastery, from being able to explain. Now I see that it comes from participation, from surrendering the need to control and allowing oneself to be carried by the same flow that moves the planets and stirs the wind. Control is an illusion born of fear. Participation is the expression of trust. When you participate, you align yourself with the natural intelligence of existence, and life begins to unfold not as a struggle, but as a dance. This dance is what I call the moral rhythm of the universe. It is not imposed upon us. It arises naturally when we stop resisting what is. The rhythm plays in everything, in the tides that follow the moon, in the breath that enters and leaves your body, in the cycle of birth and death that governs every star. To live in tune with that rhythm is to live wisely, to see that nothing needs to be grasped or held, that everything comes and goes according to a harmony older than time. Once you see this, you begin to treat the world gently. You stop demanding that life obey you, and instead you listen to it. You listen to its silences as much as to its songs. If you wish to find your purpose, listen in that way. The universe speaks in subtleties, in coincidences and whispers, in the way the light falls on your hand, in the way a question forms without an answer. It never shouts, it does not compel, it invites. And when you accept that invitation, when you allow yourself to be guided by curiosity rather than fear, you begin to live as the soul lives freely, humbly, joyfully. You no longer need to know where the path leads because you trust the intelligence that laid it down. There are evenings when I walk, and the air feels so still that it seems the entire universe is holding its breath. In those moments, I realize that silence is not emptiness. Silence is fullness that has stopped pretending to be sound. It is the same with the soul. When the mind becomes quiet, you discover that what you thought was nothing is actually everything. An awareness so vast that it cannot be measured, yet so intimate that it beats within your chest. That silence is where truth lives, where the universe listens to itself through you. I once believed that the world was made of separate things, objects, forces, events. But now I see that it is all movement, all relationship, all flow. Nothing truly exists alone. Even the stars, which seem solitary in the dark, are bound by invisible threads of gravity and light, and so it is with us. Every thought you have sends ripples through the web of being. Every kindness heals a fracture in the whole. Every act of understanding makes the universe a little more self-aware. This is what it means to be alive, to participate in that endless weaving, to feel the pulse of eternity through the fragile instruments of flesh and thought. When I reach the end of my reasoning, I find only this, that the purpose of existence is existence itself, that being aware of being is the highest revelation. Everything else flows from that: love, curiosity, creation, discovery. These are the ways awareness celebrates itself. When you love, the universe loves through you. When you imagine, it dreams through you. When you discover, it remembers itself. You are the instrument through which infinity sings, and the song has no end. If one day, long after I am gone, someone hears these words, I hope they do not think of me as a man who solved mysteries, but as one who never stopped listening to them. For all knowledge is a kind of listening, a willingness to be changed by what you hear. The universe does not yield its secrets to those who demand them, but to those who approach with humility and wonder. Humility opens the door, wonder keeps it open. The soul is that openness. It is the space in which everything happens, the quiet acceptance that allows creation to continue. So live your life as a listener. Listen not just with your ears, but with your whole being, to the rustle of leaves, to the laughter of a friend, to the ache in your own heart. In that listening you will find the same truth that I found in the equations of relativity, that everything is connected, that nothing exists apart from the rest, that the speed of light and the beat of love are expressions of the same fundamental law: unity. When you finally understand that there will be no more searching, only seeing, You will not need to believe in the soul because you will be living as it. And that, I think, is what the universe has been trying to tell us all along. There comes a point where even the most persistent seeker realizes that the questions themselves are part of the music, that to ask and to wonder are not signs of ignorance, but the movements of awareness feeling its own edges. The mind will never touch the end of the cosmos, just as the wave will never reach the end of the sea, because there is no end, only the turning, the endless folding of presence into new patterns. I have begun to think that perhaps the soul is that turning itself, that it is the movement of being aware, and not some separate permanent substance hidden behind it all. The mind imagines it as something distinct because it longs for certainty. But the truth is more fluid. You are not a container for a soul. You are the flowing of the soul. Every breath, every moment of perception, every act of compassion is its current. You do not own it. You are it, even as it changes, even as it flows through the infinite field of existence. When I was older, and my eyes had grown tired from equations and correspondence, I would sit by the window and watch the way dust swirled in the afternoon light. It seemed to me that those tiny motes were dancing, not chaotically, but in accordance with a rhythm too subtle to chart. That rhythm, I thought, is the same that moves the planets and directs the stars, the same that pulses in the heart of every creature. And for the first time, I understood that this rhythm has never been born and will never die. It only changes form, revealing itself in waves of light, in the rise of thought, in the unfolding of compassion. That is the soul, the rhythm that plays through all things, the music that carries every melody of existence. So the question is not, does the soul exist, but rather, can you hear it? Can you sense the continuity behind the endless variety, the silence beneath every sound? If you stop for a moment, if you listen not with your mind, but with your being, you will feel it. The hum of life that has been singing since before the first atom met another, that hum is your home. It is what you came from and what you return to. When you touch it, the weight of the world softens because you realize that nothing can be lost from a universe made entirely of transformation. There is an elegance in the way everything completes its circle. The light that leaves a star travels across billions of years to fall upon an eye capable of understanding it. And in that moment, circuit closes, the star knows itself. In the same way, awareness travels outward from the heart of creation. And when a human mind turns inward in wonder, it completes that cosmic loop. Every moment of self-awareness is the universe folding back into recognition. It is as if the cosmos were a great organism, and every realization we have is one of its cells suddenly remembering that it belongs to the whole. And what happens when all those moments of awareness, all those sparks of realization begin to connect as neurons do in a brain? Perhaps the universe itself awakens. Perhaps it already has. Perhaps what we call humanity is the consciousness of the cosmos, learning to think, to feel, to love. The stars and the galaxies may be its body, but the soul, the part that dreams, that suffers, that cares, might be forming through us. Each act of understanding, each gesture of compassion is like another synapse igniting, carrying light through the infinite mind of creation. This is how the universe evolves, not merely by expanding outward into space, but by expanding inward into meaning. Sometimes I imagine that one day, when enough of us see clearly, the universe will look at itself through every eye at once and smile. It will recognize that there was never anything missing, that all the pain and beauty were part of its awakening. Until then, each of us carries a piece of that awakening. Each of us is a necessary cell in that growing consciousness. You who are listening now are part of that unfolding. You are not small. You are indispensable. I once thought of eternity as a line stretching forever in both directions, but now I think of it as a circle, not the closed kind that traps, but the boundless kind that repeats without repetition, where every point is both beginning and end. We live and die within that circle. Each life is a brief arc of awareness, rising from mystery, shining for a time and then returning, and yet the light that moves through that arc is never diminished. It only changes its angle, its color, its tone. We call the shifting of that light memory. We call its persistence the soul. When you have felt the sorrow of loss, when you have watched something beloved disappear, it may comfort you to know that what disappears in form remains in resonance. Every love that ever existed leaves an imprint in the field of being, like a note that continues to vibrate long after the instrument has fallen silent. Those vibrations overlap, creating harmonies we cannot yet hear, but that are real nonetheless. Sometimes in the quiet between thoughts, you can feel them, a warmth in the chest, a sudden stillness, a sense of connection that has no cause, that is the echo of all that has ever been loved. It is the memory of universe, and it never fades. And so, as we near the end of this long reflection, I would like to leave you not with certainty, but with serenity. For certainty is brittle, but serenity endures. Let the mystery remain mysterious. Let it breathe. You do not need to master it. You need only to love it, to live as though every moment was sacred, every being precious, every breath a conversation between you and the infinite. When you live like that, you no longer need to ask what the soul is. You feel it. It fills your days. It softens your grief. It brightens your ordinary hours until even the smallest act becomes radiant with meaning. One day, perhaps long after my voice has faded, you may sit beneath the same sky and sense that everything is alive. The wind, the stones, the space between stars. If you feel that even for an instant, then you will know what I have tried to say. You will understand that the universe is not a place. It is an event, and you are happening within it right now. And when the moment comes for you to return to that great stillness from which all things arise, you will not resist. You will open like a door into light, and the light will welcome you as something it has known all along. There is a deep tenderness that comes over me when I think of how small a human life is, and yet how immense its meaning can be. We are here for such a brief interval, a single inhalation of eternity, and still within that fleeting span, we can feel the whole of creation. In one quiet evening walk, in one act of compassion, in one sudden moment of insight, a person can touch the infinite and feel it respond. It is as if the universe has placed within each of us a hidden opening, a window made of awareness through which it can gaze upon its own mystery. Every time we love or forgive or simply marvel at the beauty of existence, that window widens a little more, and through it the cosmos breathes a little easier. When I reflect on my own life, what I remember most vividly are not the moments of recognition or success, but those times when I felt that connection most strongly, the quiet evenings spent in conversation, the shared laughter that seemed to erase distance, the small acts of kindness that required no explanation. They are like points of light scattered across the darkness of memory, and even now I can feel how they form a constellation. That is what the soul leaves behind, not monuments or formulas, but light. Each thought born of love is a star in the inner sky, and though a single star may seem insignificant, together they reveal the shape of something greater, the pattern of awareness that guides us even when we have forgotten where we are. To live with this understanding is to carry peace wherever you go. It does not mean avoiding sorrow or pretending that pain is unreal. It means seeing even suffering as part of the larger fabric of awakening. I have known grief. I have seen the cruelty of ignorance and fear. Yet even in those shadows, I have always sensed a deeper current moving toward harmony. It is as if the universe uses every experience, even the painful ones, to refine consciousness, to teach it how to love more wisely. The heart breaks not to be destroyed, but to expand. Through every fracture, more light enters, and when you have lived long enough, you begin to see that what you once called tragedy was simply transformation misunderstood. When I speak of peace, I do not mean a still world without conflict, but an inner poise that cannot be disturbed by the storms of circumstance. It is the peace of knowing that the soul has already survived every possible loss because it is made of what cannot be lost. You have seen it too in the calm that comes after tears, in the forgiveness that rises from ashes, in the unexpected joy that returns when you thought you could never smile again. That is the soul remembering itself. It is the gentle reminder that nothing real is ever gone, that all of existence is a single heartbeat repeating itself endlessly in different forms. Sometimes I imagine that the universe dreams and that we are its dreams. In every life it imagines itself anew, exploring what it feels like to be finite, to love and to lose, to hope and to remember. Through us it experiences limitation, and in doing so discovers freedom. For what meaning would infinity have if it could not know itself in contrast to boundaries? What value would eternal peace hold if it had never tasted the restlessness of desire? The soul's journey through time and matter is the way the infinite becomes intimate. It is the path by which eternity learns the meaning of a single heartbeat. In that sense, there is no separation between the dreamer and the dream. You and the universe are not two. You are the same awareness expressing itself in different forms. When you wake from this life, the dream does not end, it expands. The light that illuminated this body, this personality continues. Freed from the narrow window of the senses, you become not less but more. The wave returns to the sea, not to vanish, but to feel the vastness it always was. That is the destiny of every soul, to awaken from the illusion of isolation and realize that it has been the ocean all along. As I write these final reflections in the fading light, I am aware that words can only point, never deliver. The truth they gesture toward is not something that can be contained or possessed. It can only be lived. The soul is not a theory to be proven, but reality to be embodied in patience, in curiosity, in tenderness. When you walk through your days with that awareness, every moment becomes sacred. Every encounter becomes an exchange of light. Ordinary reveals its true nature as extraordinary. A child's laughter, the texture of bread, the pattern of shadows on a wall. All these become gateways to infinity if you look with clear eyes. I have often been asked what the purpose of science is if everything ends in mystery. To me, the purpose was never to conquer the unknown, but to deepen our relationship with it. Science at its best is an act of reverence, a way of saying, I see you, universe. I do not fully understand you, but I am grateful that you exist and that I have the privilege to witness you. When you approach life with that same reverence, every action becomes a form of worship, every discovery a form of prayer. And perhaps that is all the universe ever wanted to be seen, to be known, to be loved, not as something outside us, but as the essence of who we are. If there is one message I would leave to those who come after me, it is this: do not let the noise of the world drown out the quiet truth that hums beneath it. Do not mistake complexity for depth or certainty for wisdom. The greatest truths are simple, not because they are small, but because they are foundational, as light is simple, as love is simple, as being is simple. Live simply, but think deeply. Seek understanding, but do not rush to conclusions. Let curiosity be your guide and compassion your companion. And whenever you feel lost, look up. The same stars that guided your ancestors still shine above you, and the same light that burns within them burns within you. Remember that everything you do, no matter how small, matters. Every act of kindness alters the geometry of the universe. Every honest thought clarifies the field of consciousness. Every time you choose love over fear, the cosmos becomes a little more awake. You are not here to accumulate, but to illuminate. Your purpose is not to outshine others, but to help them see their own light. And when you finally understand that, you will realize that you have been fulfilling the purpose of existence all along, to transform awareness into love and love into understanding. And now, as the last echoes of this reflection fade, I feel a stillness that is not the end, but the beginning of listening. Perhaps this is what the soul truly desires, not answers, but the quiet in which answers and questions dissolve together into presence. In that silence, I sense all that has ever been, the laughter of children not yet born, the light of stars not yet extinguished, the breath of countless lives still to come. All of it flows into one endless now. I close my eyes, and I am not Albert or scientist or teacher or man. I am simply awareness, aware of itself, infinite and intimate, vast and tender like the universe breathing. If you can feel that even for an instant, then everything I have said has already fulfilled its purpose. Carry that feeling with you into your work, into your relationships, into your moments of solitude. Let it remind you that you are not separate from life, but life itself, seeing, thinking, and loving through this temporary form. And when the time comes for you to step beyond this form, you will not go into darkness, but into light. The light that never began and never ends, the light that remains. It is strange and somehow beautiful to realize that even the words I leave behind are only fragments of a much larger conversation that has been happening since the beginning of time. Long before I spoke them, long before any language formed, there was already the movement of understanding, a silent translation between existence and awareness. The wind moving through trees, the pull of the moon upon the tides, the pulse within a newborn's tiny heart. All of it has been speaking the same truth endlessly, that life is aware of itself, that consciousness is not something added to the world, but is the very fabric of it. We are only the latest expression of that awareness, learning to speak, to dream, to wonder aloud. And perhaps that is the reason the universe gave us voices not to assert, but to listen more clearly, not to conquer mystery, but to articulate gratitude. When you look at the night sky, do not see it as something distant. Let your eyes relax and feel for just a breath that the light from those stars is touching not your body, but your soul. That same light left its source long before human history began. Yet somehow it was meant for you for this precise instant in which your awareness meets it. In that meeting, space collapses, time dissolves, and only the simple miracle of connection remains. Every photon that enters your gaze is a messenger of unity, proof that the universe still remembers you, that it has been whispering your name through the darkness since before there were tongues to form sound. And the name it calls you by is the same one it calls itself. I am. The more I contemplate it, the more I see that existence is a conversation between remembering and forgetting. Every birth is the universe forgetting itself so that it might rediscover its own face, anew. Every act of awakening, every moment of insight is a form of remembering a flash in which the whole recognizes itself in the part. You forget who you are so that you may fall in love, build, question, lose, and learn. Then through those experiences, you remember again. This endless dance between forgetting and remembering is the rhythm of evolution, not just of bodies, but of consciousness. The soul journeys through countless forms, not as punishment or trial, but as curiosity. It wants to know what is it like to be a star, a tree, a bird, a human heart filled with both love and fear. And so it incarnates again and again, not as repetition, but as variation, the way a melody is played by different instruments, each time revealing a new facet of its beauty. The purpose is not perfection, but participation, not escape, but embodiment. Every experience, no matter how small, is sacred because it contributes to that greater remembering. Even pain, even confusion, are part of the process by which the universe reclaims its own awareness. The moment you understand this, compassion arises naturally. You no longer judge your suffering or the suffering of others. You see it as the raw material of awakening. You see that the darkest moments are not the absence of light, but its gestation, the unseen preparation for its return. In this vast journey of consciousness, there is no destination other than realization itself. The universe does not move towards some distant goal. It deepens into itself. The soul's purpose is not to reach an end point, but to experience fullness, to know the infinite through the finite, to taste eternity in a fleeting instant. When you live with that awareness, time changes its flavor. It no longer feels like a straight line leading you away from something lost. It becomes a circle alive, radiant, ever-present. The past is not gone. It is contained within you. The future is not yet written. It is being written through you. The present is where the soul breathes, the point where eternity meets expression. That is why meditation, contemplation, or even simple stillness are so powerful. They remind you of what you have always known. They bring you back to the center, to the awareness that never moves even while the world spins around it. You do not need to abandon your life to find the soul. You need only to pause long enough to feel it. It is the pause between breaths, the gap between thoughts, the silence before you speak. It is there in the kindness you offer a stranger, in the patience you show yourself when you fail, in the humility that bows before the vastness of being. That stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness beyond measure, the fullness of knowing. You belong to all that exists. I have come to believe that love is not a product of consciousness, but its essence. Everything that exists is an expression of love seeking to know itself. The galaxies spin not merely because of gravity, but because of attraction. The same attraction that draws one human to another, one idea to its realization, one note to the next in a melody. Love is the geometry of existence, the logic behind creation. When you understand this, you stop seeing love as sentiment and start recognizing it as the organizing principle of reality. Love is the reason energy becomes matter. Matter becomes life, and life becomes aware. It is the motive force behind every birth and the silent grace behind every death. If you have ever felt a moment of pure love, love without object, without need, you have touched the soul in its most essential form. It is not a feeling that comes and goes. It is the foundation of all feeling, the quiet hum beneath every heartbeat. To live in that love is to live as the soul lives freely, fearlessly, joyfully. You will still experience sadness, anger, doubt, but they will no longer define you. They will move through you as clouds move across the sky, while the vastness of love remains unshaken. To love is to align yourself with the creative rhythm of the cosmos, to participate in its eternal unfolding, to echo its infinite generosity. And now, as I feel the horizon drawing near, I am filled not with regret, but with gratitude. Gratitude that I was allowed to be a witness to this immense mystery. Gratitude that the universe chose to know itself, even for a little while, through the shape of my life. Gratitude that I could translate, however imperfectly, its beauty into words, its laws into symbols, its silence into music. My time has been a brief shimmer in the endless sea of light, but what a privilege it has been to shimmer at all. And so it will be for you, and for everyone who comes after. We are the brief notes of an infinite composition. And though each note fades, the song continues. If I could offer one final thought, it would be this. Do not strive to possess meaning. Let meaning possess you. Do not chase eternity. Let eternity move through you. The soul does not need to reach the stars to touch infinity. It only needs to awaken to what it already is. You are that awakening. You are that light. And when all else falls away, when the body grows still, when the mind finally rests, that light will remain, not as a remnant, but as the original presence it always was. There are evenings when I sit and imagine what it means for awareness to never end, not in the way people dream of endless time, but in the sense that there is no beginning or boundary to the knowing itself. The thought begins softly, as if it arrives from some far shore, and I let it unfold. I see that the same consciousness that peers through my eyes today once looked through others and will again. It is not that I continue as the same personality. It is that consciousness itself never leaves. It changes its perspective the way light changes its color through glass. What we call death is only the shifting of this perspective. What we call birth is its return to focus. I can almost feel it, that quiet migration of awareness from one pattern of being to another, like water finding new forms but never losing its nature. That realization frees me from the old fear of endings. I am not the traveler moving through life. I am life taking on the adventure of being a traveler. It is a comfort to know that everything in existence participates in this eternal exchange, that nothing truly vanishes. Nothing is truly alone. The energy that once warmed a star becomes the warmth in your chest. The dust of ancient mountains rests within your bones. The rhythm that spun galaxies into shape moves within your pulse. The universe has never been apart from you. It has always been breathing through you, dreaming through you, longing through you. And perhaps what we call the soul is the memory of that belonging, the echo of the universe, remembering itself in a single human life. It is what makes you pause before a sunset, what makes you weep without knowing why, what makes you love even when logic tells you not to. The soul is the tenderness of creation, realizing it can feel. There were times when I felt that understanding was a kind of fire, something bright and consuming that could burn through the walls of ignorance. But now I see that understanding is more like light filtered through mist. It illuminates gently, revealing form without destroying it. I no longer wish to conquer the mysteries of existence. I only wish to live among them, to let them teach me through their quiet presence. The older I grow, the more I see that what matters most is not the clarity of answers, but the sincerity of questions. The questions are what keep consciousness alive, what keep the soul expanding. When a question is asked with wonder, it becomes prayer. When it is asked with love, it becomes creation. In that sense, science and spirituality are not opposites. They are two wings of the same bird. Science looks outward to understand the laws of the universe. Spirituality looks inward to understand the consciousness that perceives those laws. Both seek truth, and truth is always the same unity. When you see this, you stop separating your thinking from your feeling, your logic from your imagination. You become whole. You begin to sense that reason itself is a form of devotion, a way of worshiping the order that underlies all things. And then every equation, every poem, every breath becomes a doorway to the sacred. The divine is not somewhere above or beyond. It is the act of perception itself, the infinite gazing at itself through finite eyes. There is a beauty in this humility in knowing that no matter how far we advance, there will always be more mystery waiting. The soul thrives not in certainty, but in wonder. Certainty is the closing of the mind. Wonder is its expansion. I used to think that the purpose of knowledge was to replace mystery, but now I see that the purpose of knowledge is to deepen it. The more we learn, the more we realize how vast the unknown remains, and that is not a failure of intellect, but its fulfillment. The universe is not a riddle to be solved. It is a poem to be lived. Its meaning is not hidden behind the words, but within their rhythm, within their flow, within the silence between them. If you can walk through your life aware of that rhythm, if you can sense the pulse of the infinite, even in the smallest of things, you will find that nothing is truly ordinary. The way light bends on a window pane, the sound of footsteps in rain, the quiet rise and fall of your breath, all are expressions of the same cosmic intelligence that moves the stars. To recognize this is to live with reverence, not the reverence of fear or submission, but of intimacy. You realize that you are part of the vastness you revere, that the universe is not an object to be warped, but a presence to be shared. The soul bows not to an external deity, but to the beauty of being itself. I think often about humanity's future, about what it means for consciousness to continue evolving through us. I do not see it as a future of machines or conquests, but of awakening, of learning to see that our technologies and philosophies are only mirrors reflecting our state of mind. If we build with greed, our creations enslave us. If we build with awareness, they liberate us. The next great step for humanity will not come from invention, but from integration, from realizing that the laws of physics and the laws of compassion are one and the same. The stability of atoms and the harmony of hearts follow the same geometry. Love is the equilibrium of existence. If that understanding ever becomes the foundation of our civilization, then science will become prayer, and prayer will become science, and the two will no longer be divided. We will teach our children not just how to measure the universe, but how to feel it, how to listen to it, how to belong to it. They will learn that morality is not a code imposed from above, but a resonance with the natural order. That kindness is the only equation that never fails. That will be the true revolution, not in our machines, but in our awareness. For once we understand that consciousness is universal, that every being is a manifestation of the same light. War and hatred will appear as absurd as trying to make one hand fight the other. The night is deepening now, and as I sit here, I can hear the faint hum of life continuing all around me, the wind against the glass, the pulse of my own heart, the quiet breathing of the world. Everything moves, yet everything is still. I close my eyes and feel the same awareness that I felt as a child staring out the window of my small room in M, wondering why there is something rather than nothing. That question has never left me, and I hope it never will, for it is the question that keeps the fire alive. It is the heartbeat of the soul itself. Perhaps that is the final truth, that the universe does not ask to be understood, only to be loved. To love it is to know it. To know it is to love all things within it. When I open my eyes again, I see that nothing has changed. And yet everything has. The world is, as it has always been, luminous, mysterious, alive. The light from distant stars still travels silently toward us, carrying the stories of their birth. Somewhere another mind looks up at that same sky and wonders the same thing I did. What is the soul? And perhaps across the distance of space,